Hey everyone, so just coming to you with a post-war video. My region ended up having AOW, so it was kind of slow at times just because we kept getting the same people over and over again. So this video is just going to be a compilation of a bunch of war matches that I had, and you'll see me use this team a lot. It's a somewhat new team, but I find it to be quite effective, not against every type of team, but against many of them. As you saw in the first match, I almost turned one that team, and I did turn one that team quite a few times, but I was unable to record it. So this team is pretty offensive, and the way I built it, I'm hoping for a turn 3 or better finish. Based on the enemy's lead, that's how I figure out what team I should try using first. So whenever I see a Pamela lead, I try to go with my bleed team, just because I know that behind Pamela, there's usually a Zach or other very defensive green tunes. I hardly see any super offensive teams behind Pamela. You see Wayland and sometimes Ryan even. So I like using my bleed team because it can do flat damage, and flat damage is great against tunes with high HP and high defense because it's able to affect the HP directly, and it ignores bonus HP and any defensive buffs that the enemy may have. So even if someone runs S-Class Jessie, the 200% defense buff doesn't really affect my bleed team. Now I am seeing a few more bleed resist mods, but not a ton of them. This team here is quite difficult for me just because of the combination of tunes. So the Doctor helps the enemy gain AP fast. Raven prevents me from gaining AP. Mia is an all-around awesome tune just because of her maim damage and revive ability. Zach can clear all penalties, so I have to keep him preoccupied the whole time. And really the focus here is on killing Mia, but not letting her rush or use her active skill. So she's stunned right now, so when she dies, she can't use her active skill or rush and kill me. Here it's all about control, so I don't want Zach to rush, but I need to gain some AP. And when I get to the end, when it's just Raven and the Doctor, I can kind of auto it because they aren't any immediate threat. Like Zach does 1,000 damage, maim damage to all tunes, and he recovers all penalties, and he recovers himself all his HP. So that is obviously a big issue. So I'm back to this attack team that I was showing you before, and one of the reasons I'm running it is because I have a yellow and green plus 20% attack boost from the towers, and Sean has 30 veteran rings, so he is quite leveled up and can do quite a bit of damage. There we go, I got a little lucky there, and I got an AP drain with Camilla, which is great. Now, I've really been enjoying Camilla as a lead. She is the lead that free-to-play players should have gotten out of Jackson, in my opinion, but unfortunately we didn't. But we finally do have her in the league store, season store, so I hope you guys got to pick her up if you didn't already have her. So now I'm kind of just going back through some of the teams I was facing before, and it's kind of nice once you hit them, you know what their team is, or at least the last team that they had assigned, I guess. So I'm kind of just waiting, trying to find someone to attack, so I guess I'll do a tower. And I think enough people know about this, but for those of you who don't, the best setup for towers is actually a single Abraham, and the difference between 4 waves and 5 waves depends on how much you level up your Abraham's rush. So if you max out his rush, then he's perfect for 4 waves, and I believe it's 6 out of 10 for 5 waves of walkers, sorry. So just in case you didn't know that already. And then internet connection, of course. So I'm back to this team, and it's a little difficult to run sometimes when the other team is using S-Class James on defense, just because of how powerful he is with his collateral damage. If he's able to get a firm hit like he did right there, it's possible to kill my yellow tunes, which obviously is unfortunate, but it's part of, raiding and playing in war. You win some, you lose some. But overall my attack was much higher, and because we have the green tower, my team is hitting a lot harder than before, especially with Sean and James. So the weapon I have for Sean, as you see, there's a plus 25% attack boost on him to start with. And that's because I made him a sword that gives plus 25% attack for the first 3 waves. And that's why I'm trying to finish matches in 3 turns or less, so that I have that bonus. And I find the bonus to be really effective because I can usually get him to rush by the 3rd turn. He either gets targeted early on enough, or by utilizing Michelle's active skill for AP gain, it allows me to gain enough AP that I can rush Sean, or at least Lily. And if I'm able to rush Lily, well, Lily gives plus 20% AP to, I believe, 2 other teammates. And her rush is able to remove any positive defensive buff on the enemy that I attack and all enemies adjacent. So if I'm able to use her rush on the center toon, it just removes any defensive buff, which is amazing, especially when there's a human shield like this. It brings their defense back low, and when I rush with Sean, it does a mass amount of damage to all the enemies, and the waste knot helps because it can spread the damage farther than his initial reach, per se. I'm really excited when they finally change how Collateral 2 works so that my James will not give AP to enemies that get the extra damage that carries over from Collateral 2. I think it'll help my attack team quite a bit, and I'll be able to work on giving it more control in some way, shape, or form. I'm also excited to hopefully upgrade James again soon. Well, not exactly soon. We all know it takes quite a while for free-to-play players, but it's worth it, in my opinion. A free S-Class toon is very helpful for all players, especially free-to-play players. Now, this next team that I end up facing, it's a very heavy red team, and there's a lot of things to worry about here because I don't want to rush on Negan, otherwise I'll trigger payback. Mia, I need to stun or confuse or taunt or do something so that she doesn't rush and bring someone back, or use her active skill and bring someone back. Here I got a little unlucky. I was not able to kill Negan, but because I have my Lily here, I'm able to rush and get rid of that 100% defense bonus. And with Negan gone, I don't have to worry about payback. So I was able to rush at the end, and I was able to actually finish that match fairly quickly. Much better than what I anticipated on, to be honest. Now, this is a type of team that my team is not very effective in because there's no trade advantage, so it's not like my damage output will be as high. And with the shields going back and forth, it causes me to spread out my damage too much. And with Gabriel's, they keep recovering from all penalties, and they're able to rush and revive enemies, as well as use an active skill to revive an enemy. Now here, again, my damage output is high enough that it kind of just ignores the fact that that was a very heavy defensive team. Now, this is an interesting defense team to me because Ty is a Generation 1 toon, so is Sandy. She was in the League store before, and then you see Krista and Rolito. So I think having Rolito on a defensive team is interesting, especially when he's not the leader, only because kind of his bleed is what makes him really awesome. By being the leader and being able to bleed out the enemy right away, it kind of sets the number of turns the opponent has in order to kill you. Because if you don't kill the team or the toon by like turn 3, you might end up just bleeding out because of the initial bleed that occurs for, I think it's 3 turns. A team that I would like to see, actually, if I had Rolito, I would probably run him with Dale, just because Dale can do 100% heal reduction to the enemy. So having some lacerators and using 100% heal reduction, you might be able to scrape by just by being defensive and bleeding the whole team out all at once. And I know I just made a video about the reason why you don't want to run double lacerators, but in the case of Rolito, based on his lead skill applying bleed to the enemy and kind of applying bleed everywhere, you can run multiple lacerators on a team like that. The only issue with most lacerators is that they don't have a lot of control. Now, Giafang is different, same as Elena, and even Martinez. Those 3 lacerators have quite a bit of control, while Rick is a passive toon and has a bit of control with his weapon, but jack of all trades, master of none. Davy doesn't really have any control. He's just a bleeder. Yellow Shiva, she's a bleeding toon as well. She doesn't have any control in my opinion. She's just all about applying that bleed and applying damage. But if you wish to control the enemy, you need a lot of supporting characters. So a lot of the teams that I ended up fighting in war seem pretty standard and not extremely different than what I'm kind of used to. Everyone kind of runs the same team as they did before. The top players obviously run a more elaborate and diverse team with some of the new characters, which takes some getting used to. So I'm kind of glad that I'm meeting them now in AOW because it gives me the opportunity to kind of test and try new things to see what works and what doesn't work. If I've never mentioned this before, Zach is my least favorite character in the game. He put so many holes into my team just because I can't ignore him. There is no way that I can ignore him because Zach will punish my team, and he's done it so many times. I'm pretty sure in this match I end up losing 1 or 2 toons. I think it's 2. Oh, looks like it might be 3. I don't even know if I end up winning this match actually. I had to take that risk in rushing on Mia because if I didn't try to stun her and she died, she was just going to bring back someone else. And if she brought back Zach, for instance, and then he rushed, then that's 1,000 maim damage to my whole team. He gets fully recovered, and my team gets AP drained. In the end, getting the W is important, but it also matters in how you finish. Because, ideally, having all 5 toons alive is the best thing possible because it ends up causing more damage to the enemy's HP. And once you're able to bring them down to 0, obviously they can't attack you or your teammates. And how you win wars is by winning matches. But it's not just about the matches you win, but how you win them and how fast you win them. And it's a speed thing in the end. Now, I know that personally I am not the fastest raider or attacker, and I probably never will be. What I'm looking for mainly is consistency. And that means I have to be adaptable to the different teams that I end up facing. I have a limited roster, being a mainly free-to-play player. I've gotten the one offer the one time that was $5, and I ended up getting a bunch of green tokens for about 100 pulls. So it was worth it value-wise there. The main value to me was getting a receipt so that if I ever lost my account, I would be able to recover it. Anyway, I'm pretty sure all war I only ended up running 4 different teams, and at that I relied mainly on my new melee attack team with Camilla, James, Sean, Lily, and Michelle. I did occasionally sub out Michelle for a human shield just to divert attacks away from my heavy attackers because when you get heavy attack toons on defense, it can sometimes be troublesome. I know that the person's team who has blue Conrad, they were able to attack me a couple times where Conrad just crit on the first turn because I wasn't able to kill him or I chose someone else to attack. And he ended up killing my one of my toons on the first turn, which is unfortunate, but it happens in every match. In every war, there are just some teams that end up getting you. And all you can do is work and learn to improve. Thank you everyone for watching and listening to my video. I hope you had a successful war weekend.